Yes, we are.
I just saw the meeting recording button pop up. All right. Wonderful. Very good. This board has been in executive session since 6 p.m. We called the roll at the beginning of that, so we are simply resuming our regular meeting now at 7:01 p.m. Into the consent agenda. Tonight we have a very short consent agenda, simply the warrants and the meeting minutes from our last meeting in September. Do any members of the Board of Trustees have questions or comments regarding either of these items?
This is Trustee Tumna Ismail. I move to approve the consent agenda.
This is Trustee Taylor. I second.
We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Miranda, if you would please call the vote.
Trustee Danforth?
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail?
Yes.
Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover?
Yes.
Trustee Taylor?
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin?
Yes.
Very good. Consent passes. I want to thank Susan Wagner for the public comment she submitted to the town this week. And now I would like to open up the floor to any members of the public who would like to speak for up to 3 minutes on any item that is not on tonight's agenda. So this would be your opportunity to speak on anything. If you would like to either raise your hand or begin speaking up, we will give you your 3 minutes, beginning now. I am not seeing anyone come off of mute and not seeing any hands raised from the community. So we will continue on with this evening's meeting and into one of our annual events, one of the big things we hit every year. This is the presentation of our budget for the next year. We've had several public meetings on this, public work sessions and town board work sessions. So I would like to hand this over to town staff to present what we hope will be the 2021 draft budget.
Thank you, Mayor Larson. Good evening, everyone, trustees, fellow staff, and public. I'm very pleased to present to you the draft budget. What we're going to do is just go through the PowerPoint. You're not going to get information other than the DDA budget, which we sent to you last week, so you could see that as well. And I will introduce the DDA budget to you when we get there. We do have representatives, though, of the DDA here. We have the treasurer and the executive director, along with at least one other member. So folks who can answer any specific questions that you have. But almost all the information you're going to get tonight is what we've already talked about in our work sessions. We did include a lot of extra information as well for the public. So for those who were interested, they could review the packet ahead of time and look at some of the other information like our August financials year to date, so they could see where we're at in 2020, as well as the detailed ledger, which we shared with you after the last work session. So we're going to go to the next slide, which tells us a little bit about the presentation flow. And this is really more for the public, since it's very similar to what we did during our work session a couple weeks ago. We're going to first go over the sales and property tax revenue 5-year trend. Then we'll talk about the fund balance and the reserve funds and the financial position of the town. We'll also talk about the revenue and expenditures by fund. We'll have an open session in case you have any feedback or questions. And then we'll talk a little bit about the process and what the next steps are. So as far as the taxes go, we'll start with the property taxes first. And as in our next slide, you'll see that this year in 2020, we are trending 7.1% above where we were in 2019. It is definitely doing better than we thought due to COVID. We thought we would actually be seeing less an increase, but we are seeing, as I said, a 7.1%. So in our work sessions, staff recommended that we budget at a 5% increase over 2019. So not over this year, but over 2019, because we recognize that the pandemic is still going to be happening for a while. None of us can be exactly sure when we're going to see a full recovery. It's estimated it could take a year or more. So we're suggesting that we stay conservative, just do 5% over the actuals from 2019. As we've also discussed in our previous work sessions, staff is recommending that if we do go above 5%, then, and we can track it in the first quarter and see how we're doing, we do recommend establishing a CIP fund designated just for capital improvements that would then be, it would be appropriated in 2020 and then allocated in the 2021 budget process. But again, we want to see how the economy does and before we make that decision. As far as the property taxes go, on our next slide, we just yesterday heard from the county. We just got the preliminary numbers that came to us very late. Normally we get those mid to late August, but because of COVID and some other issues, we just got it yesterday. So we're still budgeting as if we're not going to have an increase in property taxes. I will say our initial review, Rita's and mine, of the information we got from the county suggests that we will have a slight increase, 1.69% or something along that line, but we did not change any of the budget documents for tonight since we just got that information. So again, we're conservatively budgeting the same as this year, but it's likely going to be more. Okay, and the next slide, we just want to talk a little bit about the fund balance, because I know, especially for new trustees, there might be a need for some clarity around that. I appreciate that as well. So there's two types of funds for the town, and the first is government funds. So government funds are principally supported by taxes and intergovernmental revenue. So we pulled right from the audit, from the 29 audit, the statement that the town's government funds reported a combined fund balance of $1,662,800. This is an increase of $535,401 just for the government funds. So that includes the general fund, the community center, and what's considered non-major funds. And so that's the designated street tax fund, that's the conservation trust fund, and the community center funds. So those represent the government funds. So even though we had budgeted in 2019 to actually have a loss in the general fund of $173,407, we ended up with a surplus. We did much better than we projected. As you know, for the last few years when I've been here, staff has presented very conservative budgets, conservative on revenues and very conservative on expenses. And that's really proved to be very good strategy, especially considering the fact that we're in a pandemic. So the financial position is very strong for the town. We ended up, compared to what was budgeted for 2019 for our fund, we actually superseded that by $708,000. On the next slide, I also wanted to point out that in the fund balance, we've also, it includes some of our reserved funds. So the major portion of those reserve funds includes the $110,448 from Boulder County Housing Authority for the Tungsten Village development. Now that was in lieu of the dedication of land for public use. It also includes the $36,500 that we got in the parking lease that Eldora paid when they used Garcia Field for two seasons, two ski seasons. The agreement was made several years ago that they could do that with the understanding that those funds would be saved and reserved and used for the future park development. So bottom line is I wanted to just remind you all that those reserve funds are being kept aside. And at some point, staff is going to be looking to the Board of Trustees for direction on how and when to spend those funds. The second type of funds, in addition to government funds, are proprietary funds or enterprise funds. And these are mainly funds for the water and sewer funds. So these utilities are financed and operated similar to private business. The statement of net position for the funds presents information on assets and liabilities. So the difference between the two is what's represented as the net position. So it's similar to a fund balance, just a little bit different, because it's the way it's reported is more similar to what how a business would report this on their balance sheet. So the net position of the enterprise funds increased by $886,000 during fiscal year 2019. On the next slide, we just go into a little bit more detail about the net position of the proprietary funds. So the net position includes funds restricted for major improvements or expansion to the water and sewer infrastructure. So we have cash set aside. $242,000 is infrastructure improvements and expansion, and $474,000 for water infrastructure improvements and expansion. And as I explained in our last work session, the way this money is captured is we budget every year to use for what we're projecting to come in PIF fees. And since 2014, what we've done, what finance has done, is track any PIFs that come in above that amount. And they're not used for operating and they get put in savings right away. So that's how we've been able to save about $700,000 for the future expansion or maintenance upkeep of these large facilities for utilities. So that being said, we'll start with general fund first. We actually, Rita and I were able to get it to a balanced budget for operating. When we presented during the second work session, we were still showing that we were a little bit in the red, but working with the department heads and also really analyzing our revenues a little closer, we actually have a situation where we're operating in the positive. So as I explained at the second work session, the fund balance, so that 1.6 million in the general fund, that's used year to year to balance the operating budget if it's needed or help pay for some CIP. Again, it's not designated for CIP, and that's why we've talked about a designated CIP fund. But it is used that way. This year, we've got a balanced operating budget, which I just, again, want to give kudos to the department heads. Everybody's been on board and understanding that these are tricky times. Really tried to keep a zero-based budget for this year. Again, no merit increases, as we've talked about. But when we do factor in the 54,000 in CIP projects that need to take place out of the general fund, we do then see a negative balance of 47,000, which again, we would just use the general fund dollars to balance that off if needed. As we saw, of course, in 2019, we budgeted to have quite a deficit in our general fund and then ended up with $500,000 more. So let's hope that happens again. But with the CIP budget for the general fund, we've got the $31,571 that we pay annually towards our snowplow. So that's the majority of the money. We also have earmarked $12,500 for a police vehicle. Now, as we've talked, we can sometimes get pretty good used ones from Boulder County or through auction, but we're also looking at close to 0% financing where we might be able to get a new vehicle for the police department, which, as far as I understand, has never happened. And we would finance it over, 4 or 5 years. So that money is part of that CIP, that $54,000. And then we have $10,000 that we have to put to equipment for the police department. The majority of that is for body cameras, which will help us get to meet the regulations that are now in place with the Police Accountability Act that passed at this summer at the Capitol. So I think that's about all I was going to talk to you about with the general fund. And with community center, we did go ahead and add back in the $7,500 in capital improvements. So if, we are able to realize this budget, and we all understand that, again, if the pandemic worsens, if the economy plummets even more, winter, Dawn knows, all the department head knows that we may have to shift and go back to contingency budgets like we have this year. But if not, and we do have the money in the budget to be able to do some improvements on the stone garage, which is what you all had requested at our last work session. So we did go ahead and put that back in. You'll see they have a balanced budget. Very conservative again this year. And as you've seen this year, they have really done everything possible to make sure that their contingency budget aligned with reality because of the impact that COVID-19 has had on their operations. But I also want to give them kudos because they've just been amazing to work with, that whole team. Next, I think we have the water fund budget. Yes, we do. So the water fund budget also, again, very conservative budget. We are operating in the black for operations. We do have just over $100,000 for CIP projects. And even with those, we will still be operating in the black. The contra funds, I just want to say, and this is more for the public, because this has been explained to the Board of Trustees already, but those debt contra and capital contra numbers are really balance sheet reconciliations, and they offset our financial statements, but they don't impact the budget. So again, because enterprise funds are more like a business, it's the way that you create your financial statements with your balance sheets at the end of the year. So those don't impact the budget at all. So the $100,000 is $15,000 of that would go towards a shared vehicle with the sewer fund. And then $85,500 is earmarked for infrastructure improvements. And that includes a fire hydrant and valve replacements and upsizing the Big Springs distribution system. Next, we have the sewer fund. And we even got the sewer fund to operate in the black. So I am so pleased and thankful to Chris Pelletier and his team for helping us make that happen. So we're operating in the black. And then we have $115,000 CIP budget that will impact the fund balance or the net position for sewer fund by negative $33,992. Again, their net position's plenty strong, so they can certainly handle this. And again, we're budgeting conservatively, so things could actually look a lot brighter than we're predicting, although that's not bad. But we really do need to do these CIP improvements. 15,000 again is that shared vehicle that they will use for both sewer and water. But then repairs and replacements to the collection system, which includes pipes. I know most of you know we've got some really old infrastructure, really old pipes. We continue to have breaks, a few every year, and we're trying to replace them as we can. Also, manhole repairs and upgrades, and then jetting the sewer main. Next, we have the street fund. And it's got a very healthy fund balance because they have not been using all the funds that have been coming in every year. So they are going to be using $6,280 more next year than they are be bringing in, but they'll be pulling that from the fund balance that wasn't used the previous year. And they've got some CIP expenses like the large equipment that's used for repaving and stabilizing the roads. I think you've all probably seen some of the good efforts that have come out of what's already been garnered through this street fund. There was repaving done on, I don't know if you call it that, on Jefferson Street that just greatly improved it. Paving of Congress Street, and then just did the luge run, not me personally, but the streets team just repaired the luge run over at the community center, what we lovingly call the luge run. So if you haven't seen the pictures on Facebook. Next, we have the Conservation Trust Fund. And the good news with this fund is that we were using it. It's very regulated how you can use this money. This money has to be used specifically for parks, open space, or trails. In the past, we've been using it to purchase the Wingate property. Because Mary unfortunately passed away this summer, her will said that no longer should the town be charged. So even though I think we had 18 months or something like that left on our lease with the option to purchase, we no longer have to pay for that. So now those funds are going to go right to parks. And I think you know that we have had very little money in our parks budget. And we're also hoping that should the GOCO grant get funded, that's another way that we could potentially contribute to the project of improving Parker Reservoir Park. Okay, then we have our new Health and Human Services Fund. We were very conservative about this because there's such a lack of STRs operating right now, and we just don't know when we're going to see an uptick in that. It's going to depend on the pandemic for sure. So we just very conservatively budgeted to have $6,000 worth of revenue in that budget. We will continue to monitor it and, of course, update you. The first collection will actually take place at the end of this year, beginning of next year, I think in January. So we'll get the first quarter's worth of lodging fees, and we'll at least have a better understanding of where we're going with that. And the last one is the Downtown Development Authority, and I wanted to give a little bit more time to that because this is the first time that you're seeing it. Just briefly, and that's the next slide. Thank you. Just very briefly, their operating budget hasn't changed much at all. They're looking at an operating budget of about $32,000. And then the capital improvements looks like a lot. The reality is that even though they had budgeted in 2020 to use $500,000 or more, several of those projects have been delayed partially due to COVID. So they're really hoping that next year they'll be able to do some of those large, big ticket items that they have been talking to you about, such as the Big Springs parking and the Lakeview intersection. Just because you approve this budget, though, I want to make it really clear that that would not change the process. They would still come to you with the resolution. And of course, as they've been doing, they would first bring it to you maybe as an information item and explain to you what they're hoping to do with the TIF funds. Then they would bring a resolution to you and you would approve it. So even though, you know, you might approve this budget when everything's said and done, when we adopt the budget, it still will not change the process. And since this is the first time you've seen this, I thought I would open it up. And as I said, I believe Hope Jordan is here, the executive director, and Ron Mitchell, the treasurer. And I think I saw at least one other board member. And of course, Jonathan Baumhover is the BOT liaison. So if you do have any questions, now would be a good time to ask them about the DDA.
Trustees, this is your opportunity.
Yeah, I have a question. Just briefly looking at it with the beautification downtown, it doesn't have any money on that budget, but I could have sworn that it had some money, like 20,000 on that. I'm just curious why it's not on there.
It should have some. Can you hear me?
Oh, I just don't see it. I guess let me look at it on my.
Yeah, it looks like the last time there was downtown beautification money was in 2018.
Yeah.
You know what?
I think
It's
Something was
because,
passed earlier this year.
yeah, let me just explain that. This is Karen again. Instead of breaking it up into beautification, downtown beautification, that's actually listed under the operating budget. And so that's just a holdover from one year in 2018 when some of the operating budget went to beautification. All of the beautification is coming out of the TIF fund, so that's going to be a capital. So that $660,000, that includes the beautification. And we did send to the Board of Trustees a little message with the details showing you what the big projects are, but it did also include beautification. So the downtown beautification, again, a line item that you're seeing, that's up there in operating, but it is not coming out of operating. It didn't in 2019, it didn't in 2020, and it's also not going to come out of operating in 2021. It's lumped into that 660,000.
Okay.
You see where it says
I
capital?
don't see 660. Where?
So at the very right above total expenditures,
Yeah.
it says 660,000. That's the capital. So that's everything above that is there.
Oh, so you're looking at 2021. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So it just comes out of the, but why even have that why even have downtown beautification on the list if it's not even going to be, itemized?
Only because in 2018, it came out of the operating budget. So if we're going to show you 2018 actuals and 2019, we try to show 4 or 5 year trend.
And then the fireworks is on there, but there's nothing ever been done for
No, it hasn't been done in the last, since I think 2016 was the last year. Might have been 2017.
And you know what? I mean,
Yeah.
I know this is another conversation, but I thought you guys had no money, but apparently I think there is for future conversations when COVID's over. The other question I had is that there's going to be that new art, whatever you want to call it, public art out of DDA money. That also comes out of the capital then?
Yes. That's a public art master plan. And then they plan on doing some really cool things with that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
My question around the 660,000 is basically how aspirational is this budget versus how many of these projects do we actually see getting done in 2021? It seems like quite a lot. And like historical trend doesn't necessarily we would do so many projects in 1 year. And so my question is, do we need to allocate this much in the budget? Would it be more efficient maybe to focus on a couple of that we can lay out and get the kind of line item of them all, rather than, approving this very large lump sum for 1 year?
And I will defer that to the executive director or the treasurer, whoever would like to answer that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Yeah, so several of the projects that we had in 2020 were delayed because of COVID. One of them, for example, is the wayfinding, and Big Springs definitely slowed down. So a lot of the funding that you're looking at is some of the projects kind of crossing over into 2020. And the funding that's shown to you now just makes the pursuit of projects available. So when wayfinding finishes up, when Big Springs finishes up, there is other projects that the DDA can move forward with. There's also projects in there that are kind of like a mainstay, like beautification, that we're trying to develop. And the public art that was commented on earlier, the $10,000 that's requested for that is really for leveraging other grants and other funding, not necessarily to say, oh, let's go you buy a sculpture or do something for $10,000. It's more like, how can we leverage other funding with that $10,000?
Well, the other thing too is with the approval process, anything left over out of the 600, which there will be plenty left over, because you're right, we can't get more than 2 or 3 projects done in 2021. That will just carry forward for approval by the BOT for the next projects in the next year.
And anything also left over will go back into TIF funds.
Right. I'm assuming that the 520 budgeted for 2020 is the actuals on that are going to look a lot less. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so it just kind of approving the budget kind of opens the door for potential. But like Karen mentioned, before we even move forward with a project, we come and present it to the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, that I understand.
For approval.
Just wanted to be very clear that we're on the record that, this is it's like a conditional approval, but does not indicate any tacit approval of any of these projects.
This is like a federal
Absolutely.
government authorizing versus appropriating.
Yes.
Do other trustees have questions for the DDA executive director or board members regarding, or town staff regarding the proposed budget for 2021?
What we would like to do is go ahead and post this on our website. We would like to invite the public to comment on it. So really tonight, all we're asking is if you would approve us to be, we said October 15th, but since there isn't a lot of feedback where we're going to have to change the budget, we could get this draft budget up there rather quickly. We want to have it up until at least October 29th. It'll actually stay up there past then, but encourage people to give us their feedback by October 29th so we can gather that all up. And when we present the budget in the budget hearing on November 10th, we'll be able to have all that information available for the Board of Trustees as well to look at, all the public comment. And of course, the public will still be invited to listen in and participate in the virtual public hearing and to provide comment and feedback either in writing or in person. So that's the ask of the board right now. Do you feel comfortable enough with this draft budget for staff to publicize it and seek public comment?
So we'll go around the board, and since we can't really do a not a 4 virtually, we'll go and ask. But before we get to that, I want to give congratulations to town staff and to thank you guys for how hard you've been working on this and for bringing this, like you said earlier, bringing this to a net zero budget. That's an incredible effort during this year, during the things we're facing. And I want to also thank you guys thank the members of this board, town staff, and also previous board members who aren't here with us tonight. As Karen stated earlier, this town is in incredible financial position right now. We've been very conservative over the last few years with our budget. It's something that a lesson we've tried to learn coming out of the 2013 floods was that something would be coming before the town that would require us to have some fund reserves. And this year it was COVID-19. And because of the hard work of town staff and the conservative efforts, the way they've made things happen in this town without blowing budgets, we are actually now in a very financially strong position for a town our size. I just really want to give incredible congratulations to town staff for this year's efforts and for all the year's efforts that have put us in this position. So thank you guys. Thank you, town staff. And I also I don't want to let this chance pass because we haven't really had a chance to thank the Wingate Trust. That was something that did happen in the height of the COVID blow up this spring. That we realized this is one of those things that's been on the budget. It's been a budget line item since I got involved in the town 15 years ago. And to have Mary Wingate free the town of its last 18 months of responsibility so that we now have something of a parks budget to work with this year is something I just want to give thanks to her, thanks to her family, thanks to her trust, and to highlight for the town that this is kind of a momentous affair for us because this is something that has been part of the town budget now for 20 plus years and is now done. So I didn't want that to pass without notice. So thank you to town staff for all you've done. Thank you to the town boards. And I'm going to just call down the Board of Trustees to get input on Karen's ask or any last comments or thoughts on this budget. Again, we're looking for direction to post this publicly and move forward with the next board meeting having the draft of 2021 budget. So I'm going to go down the list as they appear on my screen, which means I am beginning with Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely satisfied with every line item on the budget as it currently stands. Research as fast as I possibly can so that it's been quite a tight turnaround since getting the line item and trying to understand what everything means. So I would say I'm comfortable with town posting this for the public to see, but that, on my side, there are still some things that I would like to see addressed, particularly in the larger kind of big ticket budget items in the general fund, like law enforcement and the DDA's kind of $660,000 that we might authorize. So I would still like to address those, but I would at this point feel comfortable with town posting the budget.
Thank you, Eric. Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
I am happy with what I'm seeing as of yet. So I'm glad to see all the work done by town staff. And as you said, echo just the amazing job that's been done to keep the budgets where they are, especially in light of the pandemic. So yeah, in favor of posting this to the public and seeing if we get any comment from the public.
Thank you, Jonathan. Trustee Taylor.
As to what Mayor Larson said regarding our benefactors and our staff, all I can say is hear, hear. I think the budget is fine, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable with it, and I'm entirely in favor of posting this.
Thank you, Julian. Trustee Danforth.
Yes, thank you to town staff for all the hard work in preparing this and for all the years of having our conservative estimates and putting us in the position that we're in now to be able to have the funds to weather the extreme circumstances in which we're currently facing. So thank you so much for this. And I'm all in favor of posting this, and I'd also love to see a posting on social media that kind of touts some of these successes of where we're at, the funds that we have available. I just want to sing the praises of the town and make sure everybody knows we've got this, we're doing great. So that's my only additional request with this, but I'm good to post, and thanks again.
Thank you, Lindsay. And Trustee Corvallin.
Yes, I am also good with posting, and definitely think budgeting the way you guys have been doing it is a good way. Conservatively, that's the way I like to do it. So thanks.
Thank you, Tanya. I too think we should post this immediately, get the public comment. I would like to encourage all members of the public to weigh in on this. Let us know if you were heading in the right direction or if there's other things you see you'd like to see us be focusing on. And we will then have this next public hearing on the 2021 budget in 2 weeks' time.
No, actually, it's November 10th.
Oh, November 10th. Sorry.
November 10th. We're going to actually post.
I'm reading the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Post
We
My
want to give the
apologies.
public lots of time to give us input.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Thank you, we will do so.
All right. Again, thank you, town staff. We are going to move forward on the agenda into our action items tonight. And for those who joined us for the epically long meeting 3 weeks ago, last meeting, tonight are items that we're going to have as we had very discussion items on at our previous meeting. And we are going to tackle tonight, beginning with the Great Outdoors Colorado Resilient Communities Grant application. This is a grant that our ProSab group has been doing an incredible job of outreach to the community to look at upgrades to Barker Meadows Park, Gersio Fields, and the area around the reservoir. And I believe I saw the chair of our ProSab board is on with us this evening. Town staff, do you have anything to introduce this, or are we handing it straight to Jesse?
We're going to hand it straight to Jesse.
That's what I thought. All right, Jesse, welcome.
Hi. So yeah, hi Chris. Hello to all the trustees and the folks here tonight. I am Jessie Ansari, Chair of ProSab. So I'm just speaking on the agenda item tonight on behalf of the Nederland Parks Recreation Open Space Advisory Board. And the question before you this evening is asking for your approval for the ProSab to proceed with submitting this latest grant application. So it's a highly competitive grant. I'll just like to tell you maybe a little about the grant details, the project scope, and the vetting process that we've been through. This grant is very specific, and it's also very different from previous grant cycles from GoCo that maybe previous folks have been familiar with. So this year and next, they've launched, it's a one-time Resilient Communities program, it's called, and it's for outdoor recreation, stewardship, and land protection projects. So this will fund immediate needs or opportunities that have emerged and it has to be in direct response to the pandemic within the context of the following 5 program values. So it's resource conservation, outdoor stewardship, community vitality, equitable access, youth connections. And I guess we're having a little quick skid through our slideshow here. So this is kind of the strategic plan. It is capacity and operations support. And in your packet tonight, you have a copy of our 5-page narrative. You have some of the letters of support. You have the site map, the site photos, the timeline, and the budget. You're welcome to skim through some of these pictures too while we're talking. You'll notice that much of the plan is going to be familiar to you. And this is because this project is basically just following the ProSab mission. So that is to implement the Town of Nederland Park Recreation and Open Space Master Plan, which was the comprehensive master plan of 2013. So basically this project is just an acceleration of that long-standing vision. And that is also falls within the strategic plan of GoCo. And the sole focus there is on priority components of that plan. So we're really focusing on needs and not wants for this plan. As you see, we're talking about the value of parks, the needs within the context of the pandemic this year, and how our greenways have become havens, and that communities providing equitable access, there's many benefits for that. So there's a few kind of things I would kind of want to maybe talk a little bit about tonight. Specifics. We are in close contact with the the GoCo project coordinator, Madison. And so to that end, we've had feedback even today from Madison. So we're working closely with the actual committees in GoCo, which is something that they're offering this year is a more community-led vision. So one of the things that she would like us to look at is to quantify the increase in use. So she would like us to, we have said that within the narrative that the use of parks has drastically increased this year due to the effects of COVID and the effects of the pandemic. So we have a few little tweaks of the narrative to make, but in general, it's all the same. We also have a little addition to make in the narrative about an increase in environmental impacts due to the increase of use in our parks area, which we've seen this year. So this is the little plan that we've given, the little slideshow that I've been going around. I can talk a little bit about community vetting. I think it's kind of a big thing to make sure you all understand that the ProSAB have done, it was a very accelerated speed of the actual project this year. So we got the grant details in early June, and now we've had this last few months to put this together. So in that time, we have hosted, I think September the 1st, I've got here, we hosted an online presentation and the input session before the BOT meeting. September 5th, we did a walkthrough of Barker Meadows Park. September 7th, we had an open forum. September 9th, ProSAB presented to the DDA. We've also had a presence at the farmers market for the last several weeks. There we've been distributing trifold leaflets, just detailing the site plan and grant information. We had a letter, an article in the Mountaineer newspaper, a feature. We've had outreach with the festival organizers, and so you'll see that there's 2 public comments put in from them, and they have expressed reservations about irrigation, but overall supportive and positive about everything in the proposal. We've had one events organizer saying that we're all for good green grass in the ball field, and they can see why irrigation is probably needed. So the hope on that front is that we can work closely with the event festival organizers if we get the grant, which we're assuming we hopefully will. So we're hopefully just going to move forward and really work in close contact with the festival organizers on that end. Letters of support we've had from Alps Coaching, Tadasana Yoga, Nederland Community Library Organization, Wild Bear Nature Centre, Parent of New Explorers Playgroup. We are in current discussions with the Nederland Community That Cares Coalition, the Nederland Seniors, the Nederland Health and Human Services, the City of Boulder, and a week ago, or was it 2 weeks, we did a presentation with the Sustainability Advisory Board and got their feedback, because that is obviously a big thing for ProSAB. So I would say we've had about 100 people, 100 to 120 people who've directly listened to the presentation that we've been given. And it's been a massively positive response from everybody. People have reviewed the plans, have been really enthusiastic on all these fronts. So I would really recommend tonight that we capitalize on the enthusiasm and the engagement of the current moment. It really is a unique possibility. There's another thing that I would think that the BOT might want to discuss, and that is that in this budget, we have included 1 year of a part-time parks maintenance employee. So this is a dedicated employee that would be funded through the grant, through the first very busy work year of 2021, and that would be grant funded. But the long-term goal, as we're talking about budgets here, is that town would consider in future budgets the potential of funding a dedicated part-time parks staff. So we're definitely interested in having discussions with you about that. I did just notice, listening into this budget talks there, that the reserved funds from Eldora, Karen said, were 36,500. And I know I think we have it down. We're going to use 12,000 of that as in-kind cash matching funds. So that would still leave, 24 $1,500 for future parks funding, which would be fantastic. And as you can see from the budget here, the total project cost we have, I think the last time I looked at it was 522, but it looks like we've got 414. And we have the matching in-kinds. Is that the total project cost? Okay, so we have matching in-kinds, and the total match the last time out was 149. And so we were requesting the GoCo funds of 348,100. So yeah, a little under 350,000 we are going to be requesting in this grant application. And those are the basic details. I'd be happy to talk more about project scope or any questions that you have.
Thank you, Jesse. And just, yeah, thank you for the incredible outreach you guys have been doing at the farm markets and the public hearings and the virtual meetings. And you guys have been doing a great job of getting the word out and getting input on this project this year. We've had really valuable feedback. So I would really thank, I mean, this goes back to ProSAB over the last 8 years too. This is work that's been put in from all the previous boards, and a huge amount of input from people from like Rhea, from the DDA has had some fantastic input about wind and mulch and little details like that. So yeah, it's been a very collaborative approach this year. Very good. So the board of trustees, questions or feedback for Jesse and ProSAB? Tanya, I'm gonna work reverse order this time.
Okay. First I want to thank everybody, because I know this is a hard job and it's impossible to please everybody. And I also want to say that if it got passed as it is, I would not be sad. I'd be happy. I'm excited for any improvement happening at the whole reservoir front area. And so I'm glad we're moving forward. But when I was looking at the plan this morning and I was comparing 2013 with this one, I couldn't help but like 2013's plan more. It just had like more fun, new things going on. I just I just don't see, except for the cool earth sculpture thing. Otherwise, it's just kind of an improvement of what we already have: the ball field, the trails. Not a whole lot of new things added. At like recreational. And I know not everybody thinks that recreation is what this is about, but myself personally, when I go to like Winter Park and I see their awesome town park, the climbing wall and the bike park and the skate park and the amphitheater, it's like a one-stop drop for parents to just drop their kids off and know that they're going to be fully entertained, or for, you know, obviously adults too, to do the climbing wall. And I just feel like, I know maybe it's too late to go back to the drawing board at all, but I just wish there was more going on besides just the same trail, the same ball field. I mean, I love the idea of a ball field, and I do think it should be synthetic grass, but that's just me because I have long-term maintenance on it with drought and everything that we're gonna, high temperatures that we had this year. But so that's my feedback, and I don't mean it to be critical. I think it's going to be nice if as it is, but I just don't think it's going to be very exciting. As from a parent's perspective, it doesn't excite me that much. And it just like, I don't know, I just don't know if you guys have been to Frisco or Winter Park and they have that one-stop park with all this fun stuff to do. And that's my number one complaint. But then number two, I also compared to 2013, it doesn't look like a ton things being added. So I am curious how many parking spaces you guys are adding in this plan. And then the third thing is with the recycling, compost, and trash situation. Are there going to be several cans throughout the park with the maintenance and people to clean it up? Because I know that this year the waterfront was a big problem with trash, and also like a receptacle for the poop bags. So that people don't just have a poop bag thing, but you got to have a can for that so that people don't just leave them everywhere. And I'm sure it's in here. I just didn't see it. I was wondering how many cans, recycling, and compost bins were going to be throughout the park. So that's my feedback. I like it. I just don't love it, but I think anything's an improvement, and I really appreciate the hard work you're doing.
Cool. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any of those for you, if we could. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is to do with the actual budget itself. So, I mean, some of the plans that you refer to there are probably multi-million dollar plans, where we're trying to keep this within 350,000. So really, I thought we could always approach this as a phased approach. So this is going to be like the ground level, the grading, the drainage, the trees, the trails, the topsoil. And it is really kind of boring stuff, but it is essential stuff. So there's nothing in the plan that would prohibit, say, a future amphitheater or a future climbing wall. There is a few like really fun stuff in there. There is $20,000 for an artist installation, which is a super cool sustainable nest kind of artist installation. We're in talks with an artist who creates sustainable play structures. And there is one kind of image in the presentation about that. But it's fairly basic. It's a lot of signs and trees and over 100 trees, and irrigation. So it's not the pavilion and things like that have been taken out. And that's also a lot about getting kind of public some kind of cohesion with what people want too. But you should attend our next ProSab meeting, because we have some more discussions at the next ProSab meeting about some other fun stuff that we've got a kind of interesting thing going on. Someone has proposed helping build a potential bike park somewhere else in town right now that we're going to be pursuing.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's really about this kind of goal is about really equitable access to for folks. So it's about kind of no cost entry to recreation. So people could go there with nothing and still enjoy the space. They wouldn't need to bring a bike or, it's kind of for all ages. So there's a big focus on preservation of open space too in this area. Hopefully by improving this space, we're going to get a leverage to talk next about acquiring the land next door, the private property. I think that's a big thing on the ProSab's goals. And then that would massively open up a lot more space. So I think that would be a huge leverage for us if we were able to say we have this developed park, we need that remaining space.
That even in a possibility that they would sell that lot, or I mean, because they've always been no.
It's a whole nother discussion. We would need to pull a whole bunch of people in for their historical expertise on that.
So we're going to get the parking and the trash, I guess.
Yeah, parking. If we can go to the maps, Miranda, at all, there's
Well, really quick before we go there, just because I'm on this slide. So, Trustee Copeland, we're looking at 4 receptacles. I tried to highlight this line, but I couldn't. But total units is 4.
4 trash cans or recycling, or what are they?
Recycling or something.
Double, yeah, trash and recycling, and then 5 doggy waste stations.
Okay.
So the doggy waste stations, it's about $500 each thing. So it does have the bags, and then it also has the trash can. But we're also after presenting to the Sustainability Advisory Board, we've got some kind of interesting ideas on how to pursue compostable waste things. So I think that's going to be something.
It's just a matter of
like to work together.
Yeah. I mean, I buy those bags when it's stock the thing with those bags versus plastic.
So I think that is something that the two boards, I think, will be able to put their heads together and figure out, because you need a pickup cycle. So I think I know they were interested in pursuing a grant earlier this year about that. So hopefully we can pursuing compostable doggy waste recycling, so that it all gets collected and taken away to recycle, reuse. In the parking spaces, she's got here. So you can see on the 2013 one too, there's like a little access road up there that has a bunch of parking. We were asked by Boulder, the city of Boulder, to remove the parking furthest to the east to adhere to their wetland regulations and some of their need for maintaining kind of just the land over there. So we haven't calculated the exact space, but my guess would be about 20 extra spaces on that this access road there, right on the north edge of the map.
Okay, I don't. Let me
And
look
you
up.
see where it says added parking along the access
Okay.
road and follow that. Yeah.
So about 20 spaces there. That's right along where the ball field is, or yeah. Okay.
Just south of where the current parking lot is.
Yeah.
So kind of right next to the Americans property.
More parking you can squeeze in, it's good, because we're going to lose the fisherman's lot at some point, I imagine. So at least to make up for that difference would be good. And
yeah, we haven't accounted very much for that just because it's all been delayed. So so that is to be tackled in the future, the fisherman's lot.
That's my feedback. Thank you very much for all the work, though, and I'll try to go to the next ProSab.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. That would be great.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Jesse. Lindsay, do you have any feedback or questions?
No, I think this looks great, and I'm just excited that we're working on this grant, and thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. When I was looking over the plans, it looked very much to me like the thrust of this was long overdue and very important infrastructure maintenance. And I agree with you, this could be the basis for a number of future projects. But this maintenance strikes me as essential and useful. And I'd also like to thank you for taking into account one of the topics discussed in the very first meeting of this particular Board of Trustees, which was making our public restrooms COVID compatible. So providing at least 2 public restrooms that are touchless and COVID compatible, I'm not sure what the right word is a fantastic move, and hopefully we'll be able to make similar changes to our other public restrooms, and then we can get rid of those porta potties. So
yeah,
thank you very much. I think this is looking very good.
Jonathan?
No comments. Glad to see all the work that's been continually done over the many, many years coming together. I guess the one question I do have is that you said that this is 12,000 of the 36 that's been in reserve for the Eldora funds. Mm-hmm. So you would have 20,000 left over.
Yep.
Okay. And is ProSab looking at retaining that for future GoCo funds, or are you looking to ask the BOT to allocate that in a future year for parks staff?
That is, and that is something that I just kind of was thinking as you were going over the budget. So yeah, it looks like we'd have 24,500 left over to kind of think about where that would be best allocated to.
Well, this looks like an awesome start, and if we still had $24,000 left over, I would encourage holding on to that as maybe a phase 2 of some of the other ideas that have kicked around down there, maybe a year or 2 out if we get this grant, so that we can construct this and kind of let this settle in and see what the types of use that start to happen down there once it's a little bit more developed and actually has doggy bags and looks more than a moonscape. So just a huge appreciation for going at this funding and this new kind of grant application than we've tried to go at in the past. I think we have a really good chance of getting this, and this is an incredible grant application, just really informative, and you guys have done an amazing job of really outlining everything you want to do. So thanks, and glad to see that the parks mower was put in there, because we're going to irrigate that. I did have one final question. I noticed you had hydro seeding native and sod are all in the budget. Is the sod intended for Gershio ball field, and then the hydro seeding and the native seeds intended for the trails, more natural area?
So I can help to answer that. So when meeting with Ray Orthner about this, she had recommended us looking into the hydro seeding. I guess I can't speak to the exactly where, but had said that we needed to have the mulch and the different hydro seeding, grass seeding, as well as kind of in addition to all of the other landscaping.
Especially for the establishing
Yep.
period.
That makes sense, but I see there's a 30,000 in sod, specifically turf masters for the professional services. We're not intending on hydro seeding over installed sod, are we?
No.
Okay. Good. All right. Well, no other questions, and yeah, really glad to see all the work that's gone into this, and it looks like we got a pretty good chance. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Eric.
Just want to say I appreciate the kind of commitment to ensuring that this reflects, the natural landscape that we live in, and that, we're making good use of native plants and the soil that we already have, and what maybe our, waterfront should be. And I think this will bring it closer to that. And I'm glad that it's not a kitchen sink, throw everything at it kind of an idea and unplanned, because I think we should give residents and the public chance to use this space in a better way and see what the use patterns actually are and see what people actually need and want. And I think this is a really great step in that direction.
Very good. I agree with everything the Board of Trustees has said. And I said already, thank you, Jesse. Thank you, ProSab, for all the work you've done on this. This is an action item. We're looking to approve this tonight. So I want to open up the floor to public comment. Members who have joined us here tonight who have input or feedback for ProSab. This would now be your chance to speak for up to 3 minutes on this grant opportunity. So I'm going to open up the floor. Anyone who'd like to speak, please raise your hand or begin speaking, and the floor will be yours.
Hello, everyone. This is Erica Thorley. I am the co-chair for the Sustainability Advisory Board. And I just wanted to jump in and say how impressed I've been with this plan and its many iterations. We did a collaborative session with ProSab a year or two ago now. And it was that kitchen sink plan of all these really glamorous ideas and a pump track and all these different things. And I agree, I really like how this plan has come about and what it looks like now, with the idea that those future things can go through a number of iterations and be proposed down the road with different grant opportunities. I really appreciate Jesse's hard work on this and really bringing in many different voices from our community. It takes a lot of time and energy, and I think Jesse and the ProSab have done an awesome job with that, and I'm really excited to see this project come to fruition and receive this grant. So thank you, Jesse. Thank you, ProSab.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you, Erica. Anyone else like to speak? Not hearing or seeing anyone, so bring this back to the board for any further discussion or a motion to direct ProSab to apply for the GoCo grant opportunity.
This is Trustee Taylor. I move that we approve the that we direct ProSab to apply for the GoCo grant.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Trustee Taylor, second from Trustee Coombs Ismail. Miranda.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Trustee Danforth.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Yes.
Trustee Coverland.
Yes.
Mayor Larson.
Yeah. Motion passes unanimously. We look forward to hearing from GoCo. We look forward to hearing from you guys at ProSab, and best of luck, Jesse.
Great, thank you.
All right, moving ahead to our next action item is a Resolution 2020-31 looking to authorize the Sustainability Advisory Board to collaborate with the Mountain Resilience Coalition to develop mountain sustainability indicators for the town. I believe this one is being brought forward by our sustainability coordinator, Mr. McDaniel. I see he's on. Are you I believe you're introduced as well?
That's correct.
Welcome. And
Great. Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Garrett McDaniel. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for the town of Nederland. I'm excited to share with you an opportunity for the town of Nederland. I'm here tonight seeking approval to work with the Mountain Resilience Coalition in performing sustainability action planning. Next slide, please. So first, a little bit about the Mountain Resilience Coalition. It's a partnership between the Aspen International Mountain Foundation, the Telluride Institute, and Western Colorado University. The purpose of this engagement is to develop mountain sustainability indicators for Nederland, which intends to measure how a mountain community is performing and progressing towards sustainability. This would be the second community that they have worked with, the first being Gunnison County. So they are new, but there is expertise in the MRC, and so there is no cost to the town. This organization has developed a tool and is piloting the tool with local municipalities. By I mean tool, that it's really a glorified Excel document, but it is extremely helpful, and I think it would really benefit the Sustainability Advisory Board. The Mountain Resilience Coalition would be doing the bulk of the work, and I would be available for any support that they might need. I expect this project to take a few months. The SAB, the Sustainability Advisory Board, certainly supports this request and recommends the BOT approve the resolution that's in your packet. So a little bit about sustainability indicators and why they're important. Next slide, please, Miranda. So these indicators intend to measure how a mountain community is performing and progressing towards sustainability. I won't get into the weeds of the data required for each indicator, but at a high level, we want to quantify data around climate action, energy use, natural resources such as land, water, and air, transport, and waste and recycling. Next slide, please. The indicators are pulled from the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. The Mountain Resilience Coalition have gone through those goals and have determined which indicators are most suitable for mountain communities. One of the first activities, if this does get approved, is to determine which indicators make sense for the town of Nederland. Next slide, please. So you might ask yourself, you know, aren't we already doing this? And yes, we are, but there are certainly some gaps. The three major advantages in partnering with the Mountain Resilience Coalition is first, performing a data inventory. So looking at what data we have and what data is missing. Second is really just to centralize our data in their tool, making it easy for myself, town staff, Sustainability Advisory Board to find that data. And then finally, mapping data to sustainability actions. Next slide. So at the end of this engagement, we will have identified measurable actions and strategies that can be used to update the Nederland Sustainability Action Plan. And also this tool will be used to increase visibility into sustainability efforts. So finally, that's my presentation, and I am available to answer any questions you might have.
Awesome. Thank you, Garrett. Board of Trustees, I'm going to go random order this time if anyone has any questions for Garrett about this project. We'll begin with Mayor Pro Tem Baumhofer. Jonathan.
No questions. It seems like no cost to the town, relatively new organization that would be good for us to get involved with. And it's always good to have more expertise at our disposal. So I'm in favor of this and would love to see us approved tonight.
All right. Trustee Taylor.
As the folks used to say in artificial intelligence back in the 1970s, data is dada. So it's always good to have something that takes the data and turns it into something meaningful. I was just curious, Garrett, have you seen this? You were referring to this as a glorified Excel spreadsheet, which is true for almost any database. Have you seen how this data condenses down into something usable? And could you kind of summarize how does it turn into actionable data in a way that is fairly easy to consume? That is to say, could a member of board of trustees look at this and say, "Oh, right, I see why we need to do that"? Just some comments from you.
Easy. Yeah, it is very easy. It's not an exhaustive Excel document, and in fact, I would like to make it even easier and put that information on our town website as some sort of dashboard.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
You know, making it more visible. That's why I said visibility into sustainability efforts. I want to get this out of our Google documented onto the town website.
Wonderful. Thank you. It looks very good to me.
All right. Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Sounds great to me. Let's do it.
All right. Trustee Danforth.
I don't have any questions, but I'm in favor of this.
All right. And Trustee Corvalin.
Yes, I'm also in favor of this.
All right. Unanimously in favor so far, but as this is an action item to direct Garrett and Sab to work with the Mountain Resiliency, would like to hear from the public who's here with us tonight. If any of them would like to speak for up to 3 minutes on this topic, and now would be your opportunity. Again, please either start speaking up or raise your hands. Not hearing or seeing anyone, I will bring it back to the board. Any further comments, questions, or a motion?
This is Trustee
This is
Danforth.
Trustee
I'll make
Taylor.
a motion to approve.
And Trustee Taylor, I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2020-31. Miranda.
Trustee Taylor,
Yes.
Trustee Danforth,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Corvalin,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhofer.
Yes.
All right, very good. Garrett, we're looking forward to hearing from this and seeing what the sustainability indicators for Nederland look like.
Great. Thank you all.
There we go. All right. Moving right along to our next next agenda item, which is, I believe, also going to be focusing on Garrett. This is the Sustainability Advisory Board Boulder County Sustainability Grant. And this, those who were with us a year ago will remember we applied to hire Garrett. And I believe it is time to apply for this again. So who is introducing it tonight? Is it Garrett or is it going to be Erica?
Erica and Hunter, who are both with the staff board, who are introduced.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Larson. Thank you, Board of Trustees and town staff for allowing us to present this again this year. Opportunity to do so with an excellent first year almost behind us with this position. Again, my name is Erica Thorley. I am the co-chair for the Sustainability Advisory Board, and Hunter Wright is also joining me tonight, as well as a few other Sustainability Advisory Board members. We'll hopefully add their input during or at the end of this presentation. But we'll keep it short tonight. Our main goal is really to look back over Garrett's achievements thus far for the 2020 Sustainability Coordinator position, and in hopes that we can continue this position into 2021. So looking back over Garrett's achievements, I believe Hunter, is this yours?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Hunter Wright. I'm on the Sustainability Advisory Board, and I'm also the Sustainability Manager at Eldora Resort. Garrett's achievements, wow. I mean, he's done amazing things in the past year. He applied for 2 grants. The first grant was for $50,000 for an EV fast charging station. The second grant is for the necessary infrastructure to support the electric vehicle station. A kickoff meeting has been conducted with the Regional Air Quality Council, and the procurement plan has been submitted and approved by the Regional Air Quality Council. So the next steps is to obtain quotes, and the planned install is fall of 2020. The next thing that Garrett achieved was he received approval of a resolution requiring town waste haulers to report metrics to Boulder County, and the waste haulers will report Q3 and Q4 data, and we'll use this data to baseline our waste diversion efforts. Garrett also submitted a grant application for the development of the Zero Waste Action Plan, including a request for staffing hours to oversee the creation of the plan. So we find out in October if we receive the grant, and we'll use some of the funds for 5 additional hours a week for Garrett to work on the plan. This grant also includes the development of a Zero Waste Action Playbook, which will document all the steps and resources used, which can be given to other communities to develop their own Zero Waste Action Plan. Garrett also conducted a waste diversion analysis and established a baseline. So the next step is to develop the Zero Waste Action Plan. He updated the greenhouse gas inventory using the latest data from Xcel Energy. The original GHG was done by Boulder County in 2016. He supported low-income renewable energy solar farms through numerous conversations and meetings with Boulder County. Garrett was an active participant in the development of the new solar farm dedicated for low-income residents. This is still in the works and planned to be finished this year, although we're not sure exactly when. And then Garrett's also been actively participating with Partners in Energy on the outreach efforts to residents and businesses about renewable energy options, including distribution of over 700 LED lighting kits at community events such as Ned's Farmers Market, as well as through the library, the Mountain Co-op, and Community Center. So the Sustainability Advisory Board with Partners in Energy distributed over 700 kits, but Garrett himself gave out over 70 just at the spring cleanup day. So we cannot say enough how much we appreciate all the hard work Garrett has done, and are hopeful that we can get approval for this, to apply for this grant to continue his very, very important work.
So the slide previous highlights how valuable Garrett has been, not only for the Sustainability Advisory Board and holding space for sustainability, not just within that board, but also within the town and other groups in Nederland. But we wanted to add this quote in from Miranda because it's really important to us. We know our town staff works so hard, and so we didn't want a sustainability coordinator to add any work to our town staff's efforts that are already so full with so many things that we require, and that they just try so hard for our community to accomplish, and to just keep adding new benefits for all of us. And so this just really speaks to how important Garrett's work is for so many different facets of Nederland. Miranda, would you like to add anything?
Obviously, I have my quote in here, but to Erica's point, Garrett's been such a pleasure to work with. I know Chris and I probably touch base with him sometimes almost daily He takes on tasks and really runs with them. He looks to us for support, but really just we fill in the blanks for him, and then he's able to acquire a lot of his information and things he needs on his own. So we love working with him. We're happy to support him, and we look forward to continuing to work with him.
Thanks, Miranda. So in short, we are asking the Board of Trustees to approve an application through Boulder County for the Sustainability Matching Grant for 2021 for Garrett's hours at roughly 10 hours per week for the 2021 calendar year. And we will hopefully have this zero waste grant adding about 5 hours per week to those budgeted hours for Garrett. And last year we did hope to have some hours at the town building where he could have an office and actually have a computer and resources. But with COVID, it didn't turn out that way. So we actually are looking for $3,750 to be budgeted for 2021 from the town for a match for this grant, which is what Boulder County requests. We would love questions or any feedback from participants in this meeting or town staff, Board of Trustees. And again, we really appreciate you supporting this position last year, and we hope to continue this position into 2021 and beyond. Something to add, the sustainability coordinator position has been a goal for the town and for SAB for a long time. It was first actually documented in SAB goals in the 2012 Sustainability Action Plan for the town. And so it's something that we have really had an eye on and been trying to find a way of have it come to fruition for the Sustainability Advisory Board and for the town. And so it's been wonderful to be able to work with Garrett and to just see how much he's been able to accomplish, even in just 10 hours per week. We just feel very, very lucky to be able to work with him and all that he brings to Netherlands. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica, and thank you, Hunter. Miranda, just scroll back there to the slide on what Hunter has done this year. One more. What? One more. There it is. The sustainability. This is just want to congratulate Garrett. This is an incredible list of accomplishments for someone who's working on a part-time position with our town, and really want to thank you for all you've done. I know I was cleaning up with you. Oh man, seems like ages ago now, just a couple months ago, and watching you give out those boxes, and it's been great to have you as part of the town. So thank you so much for all you've done. Board of Trustees, any questions for our representatives from the SAB board regarding the sustainability grant? Lindsay, we'll just call in random order again.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay. Julian?
Oh, we've seen very good stuff here, and I'm feeling pretty good about this.
It's all good. I'm not sure what we're being asked of. If it's to have them rehire him or apply for the grant again, I would definitely say yes.
That's right. We're asking them to. We're giving them permission to apply for the grant again. Giving them grant. So, yep. And glad to hear it. Eric.
Sounds great.
Jonathan.
No question. Well, this time around, there is a cost to this grant, correct? There is, we're matching, and that's part of our budget this year, correct? Yes.
Yes, we did. We included it in the budget for this year. For next year. I'm sorry, 2021. Yes. The three, yeah.
What's the cost? I'm just curious.
The $3,750 that we would have to include as a match.
Gotcha.
So, I'll just say last year I was one of the board members that was not fully convinced, and SAB managed to get this grant without a cost match. And I think last year the concern was the budget. And I'll just say, Garrett, you've definitely proved me wrong. And I am fully in support and in support of continuing to fund this going into the future and potentially trying to find actual budget line item for this as a future staff position. So I'll say that. And yeah, motion that we approve SAB.
Before you do that, let's take public comment. It's a action item. Let me just at least open up the floor here to anyone from the public who would like to weigh in on this grant proposal.
Especially not.
Hearing none and seeing none, I will give the floor back to you, Jonathan. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, protocol. Motion to approve SAB for to apply for the 2021 Boulder County Sustainability Grant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Brand?
Mayor Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Trustee Danforth,
Yes.
Trustee Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover,
Yes.
Trustee Corbelin.
Yes, yes.
Very good. Unanimously passed. Sam, Erica, Hunter, we look forward to hearing back from you guys soon about the status of this, and very best of luck. I hope very much that we get this again, because we really want to keep Garrett around, keep doing the incredible work he's been doing for us. So best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Moving forward on to our last action item for this evening, which is another resolution, this time bringing forth from the Downtown Development Authority, looking for a funding to do a survey for the Big Springs parking project. Who's from staff is introducing this?
I believe Ron Mitchell is introducing this.
All right, Ron. Still on mute.
I'm in a weird place where I'm sending requests for people to unmute. So Ron, you have to unmute yourself because I can't unmute you.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you. This will be a fairly short presentation. This project has been simplified from its original concept to about 1/3 of what it was. The project, as you see from your packet, is to create about 16 new parking spaces by using the street, which in doing that necessitates putting a drainage culvert, storm drainage culvert in, and it makes sense to put an adjacent sidewalk with it. We have redone the schematic drawing to almost to scale. I'd say it's within 1 inch so that you can see that. And we think we have a budget. This is not the way I'd really like to see this done, piecemeal, but nevertheless, this is how it's developed because Andrew and I took over this project with the resignation of 2 other board members in sort of mid-process. I hope this schematic tells the story adequately. Trustee Taylor had made the comment that the prior one was not really sufficient, and I agreed with him. So this has been professionally done, as was the other one, but we like this one better. So our request is for the survey to get it started. We will be coming back for the engineering portion, and most likely we will include the construction portion in our next request. But we want the project to move on as quickly as possible. So here we are. Any questions?
Yes, Ron, this is Trustee Taylor. I'm sure the answer to this is clear. I was not here for a lot of the early work on this kind of project. And so at this point, I'm sitting here saying, this looks like a fine plan, but what I don't know yet, and you may just be able to direct me to a document that I haven't seen, is what is the magnitude of our parking problem? That is to say, what research have we done? What studies have there been that indicate on an average weekend we are completely out of parking spaces for this amount of time during the day, or something of that sort? What could I see that could help me understand the magnitude of the current Nederland parking problem for downtown?
In terms of the study, we have two studies, one that was done quite a while back, and then the current study that was done with regard to the intersection at Lakeview. Empirically, what we found is that on the weekends in the summer, we run out of parking spaces, period. All you have to do is walk the town and see people orbiting around in the downtown area and in the shopping center area trying to find a place to park. So by using the space more efficiently, and it is a weekend problem. Weekdays, we don't have the problem. So in terms of trying to capture commercial traffic for increased sales, this is one of the projects that looked like it would help considerably. Particularly if you go on the weekends and you see that the Black Forest is closed. The last 5 weekends, the parking lot at the Black Forest has been filled. So it's a matter of observation by the committee over a period of time. And that's really a period of years. And also, I think one of our next projects will probably be to see if we can do a circulation study. But the DDA has not spent any funds I don't know of, and they may have because I just got on the board in February, in terms of current parking. But I have made this observation, and others have too. So that's all I can say in terms of what you're looking for.
Okay. You say there was a study earlier, and you were describing a recent study that was not complete, but was at least part of reviewing part of the problem. Miranda or Ron, would one of you be able to send me a link to either of those studies? That would help me feel more comfortable about it.
Yeah, I can send you the links for the documents for the parking studies.
Miranda, I'd just like to see that. I'm not criticizing. I don't have the data in my head, and I'd like to have it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. I just like to, just a little clarification, Ron, walking around downtown and observing people doesn't quite qualify as empirical results. Just, nitpicky scientist here. It's good anecdotal results, but not empirical.
I agree. It's not empirical.
Just being nitpicky,
No, but what you're saying, Mayor Larson, is exactly what I was concerned about. It's very easy to have an emotional reaction to what you're observing. It would be very helpful to be able to say, yes, we've actually done a study, and we've been able to say this is how many hours of the day we spend with no available parking or intermittent available parking. That's very important before we undertake something that is in the long run going to cost this much.
Other trustees with comments or questions for the DDA? Eric, I see you looking at the screen.
I'm looking at it. I guess my question is, in order to get the engineering work and some kind of more finalized design work done, do we need to approve this survey first? Is that what we're understanding here? Sorry, I'm not sure why we're doing it in this order and why the survey is being asked for right now. That's all.
Let me jump in here if I can. I could probably answer that. This is Jonathan. So my understanding, the reason the DDA is asking for an advance of this money is to get this survey prior. Yeah, there is a concern among certain amongst the DDA, they would like to have this survey before going into the engineering process and all of the rest. It's kind of the first step for them. In regards to, Julian, your question about parking studies, yeah, there was a parking study in 2012, there was a parking study in 2015, and there was a parking study in 2017. All of them agree with the fact that we need parking in this area, and the original plans from JVA when this project first came before the BOT in February of last year, we had three options that were based upon the feedback from those empirical studies. The 2017 plan or parking study agreed with the 2015 study, which agreed with the 2012 study, which is you need more parking and better circulation. So this is a need. It has been demonstrated now for over 8 years, and it is very nice to see the DDA moving on it. Eric, with regard to your question, yes, the DDA feels this is the necessary first step before any of the rest of the project. That's why it's before you tonight. And it's basically asking for the advance of the cost of the survey before the rest of the project. It's a matter of feeling like there is basically accountability and a secondary opinion when it comes to the surveying. And the DDA has.
Jonathan, it's Andrew. Can I jump in here?
Absolutely. You could probably fill him in a little bit more on that.
Yeah. So, well, we could have accepted, JVA's proposal had Flatiron Surveying, who JVA wanted to use. We thought a local firm, and being Flagstaff Surveying would be someone we could use. Nonetheless, we put it out to get multiple bids and have evaluated the bids on performance and availability of the surveyor. So JVA is kind of we're working with JVA to find and fit the right surveyor who would be put under the town scope independently. Town would then present the survey to JVA. JVA would then do the design and the RFP, presuming that was passed. If that helps clarify.
Thanks very much to both of you. That was very helpful information.
Yep.
So I just have two questions following up from that.
Go ahead, Eric.
Which is, I guess, is this going to cost more money in the long run if we don't use the surveyor that JVA would have used? Nominally, will this end up costing us more? And then secondarily, the concern that I have is that we do a survey that costs $7,000 to $10,000, and that the project doesn't get followed through on from there in any kind of timely manner, just because we don't have a complete kind of project up and running and doing it all in one kind of package deal. So I am just concerned that we do a survey that costs us 10 grand and then we don't end up following through on the project. And I'm also concerned that maybe this ends up costing us more money in the long run. We don't simply go with the surveyor that JVA knows and usually uses.
That's a good question. We feel that the independence of the surveyor from the engineering firm gives us a balance that we need. And we don't think that it necessarily will take the 10,000. It might take less. However, once the project is underway, if there are pins that get moved, or if there's questions where the surveyor has to come back in, he'd have to be paid. So that's an upper limit. I think probably I would hope we could do it for probably around half of that. But again, I'd hate to have to come back for $5,000 and say, I'm sorry. We're committed to seeing this go through, and we want it to go through. So it's kind of a catch-22. If we asked you for the full amount and there was a single line item in it of 10,000, I don't know if you'd question it then or not. I certainly would have preferred to have been able to go through with this and had the entire thing scoped out and done for one figure, but it didn't work out that way with us coming in the middle of the project. So that's where we are, and that's what we'd like to do.
Thanks for that clarification.
This is Chris. You said you didn't want to use the surveyor that JVA has used before. I think was it Flatirons or Flagstaff? I think I heard both.
Flat irons.
Okay. But and then you think it can be done for less. Does that mean you've actually researched it and put out an RFP?
So we solicited 3 separate bids. Well, one came with the original JVA proposal, which was high, we thought. So in addition to being high, it was also done by, someone who's, I guess, Boulder's local, but not as local as the county surveyor who lives in Nederland, who knows the town very well. And I'm speaking of Lee of Flagstaff Surveying. And the final quote, which was slightly less than Lee's, is by a large firm in Boulder, but who is more than a month out on their lead time to do the survey. So between those 3, Flagstaff is the guy that Ron and I believe is the best fit for the project to balance the scales and make sure that JVA has the most accurate information they can to move ahead with their design.
So it is staff surveying that you would be utilizing to do this survey.
We would prefer, yes.
Okay, I just didn't see that in anything in here was saying who was being used. So that was why I was just double checking on that. So thank you.
Yes.
Other trustees have questions for the DDA? Lindsay?
I just have a comment.
Sorry, go Tanya.
I mean, I know the town has a parking problem. I don't think we need scientific study to show us that. I will say that end of town has the least parking problem of town. Everyone wants to park on First Street, but I will say that the drainage that they're going to fix is going to be great, because I've parked my car and stepped into puddles in that area every year for the past 20 years. And now I avoid the puddles, but it's more than just the parking. They're actually going to help fix some weird water situation that goes on there. I don't know if there's a spring there or what, but even when it's dry, there's always water. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the effort, and also you guys shopping around and finding a surveyor that fits the budget better. So, I mean, I'm all for the project.
Thank you, Tanya. Eric, did you have another?
Sorry, yeah, just that there are these 3 quotes out there. I guess I would just like to know what the quotes were from those 3 quotes.
We can absolutely send them in. So that's something Hope and Ron and I can get to you.
Yeah, that kind of thing is just hugely helpful if we are in fact kind of, if what you guys went this quote process, it'd be nice to see a reflection of that in this, so that we could see very clearly how you guys made your decision, and then it's really easy to decide whether or not to vote for it. But it's tough when we don't see that background info.
All right, I think the original quote from JVA was around 9,000. I think that Lee Stadell's is just under 4,000, and the Drexel Burrell was $150, $250 below that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew. I'm going from memory, not from something I'm looking at. But that's
I'm just pulling up emails here and seeing if I can answer this directly right now. But nonetheless, Flatirons, I recall being higher. I think Flagstaff is around 6, and I believe Drexel Barrel, when Chris went back and asked for the topographic, one of the issues is Lee did a more thorough survey, or proposal. Whereas at first Drexel Barrel just provided a right-of-way survey. We had to go back to them and say, no, we need an actual detailed topographical survey. So nonetheless, can get you that information here shortly. Yeah, Lee's was $29.50. And then in the original JVA proposal, allocated, let's see. I don't see the JVA number right off the top of my head, but Drexel Burrell was actually $49.50. I've got that right here. And I can share these. Hope and Ron and I will send all three of these pieces of information over. So
I'm all for, shop buying local as much as possible, especially when they can do a better job at a lower price. And that is, I'm absolutely all for that. But what I don't want to do is make it look like we are trying to give contracts to people that we know just because we know them.
Yeah.
And have the full set of information out there.
Yep. So Drexel Burrell was $3,750. And that was before they added the topo. I think with the topo they're at 5,000. Lee's just less than 3, and I want to say Flatirons. Just trying to find that original proposal from JVA.
Andrew, if you have those pulled up, you could share your screen so the Board of Trustees could see those.
Okay. Yeah. So
I stopped sharing, so you should be able to share now.
yeah. Okay. 1 second here. So get back onto here. Let's see here. So this is the Drexel Burrell after they included the topographic information. So their fixed fee cost here, $49.50. If underground utilities are required to be located, which they are, it'd be $800. So we're at around $57 there. Let me get the Flagstaff pulled up. Thanks for bearing with me.
Well, Andrew.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ron. This is
I want you to go ahead, Andrew.
okay. This is an email, not the formal proposal, but get this going here. So this is Lee's initial breakdown of the topo and surveyor. I don't have, once JVA got a hold of it, they took it and they put it in their menu. So that's what I'm going to look for next.
Are these quotes, can they be compared apple to apple? Because I just saw.
Oh, they were after I asked Drexel Burrell to make theirs a topographical survey and not just a right-of-way survey. The Flatirons quote from JVA was, I would consider that would have been a apples to apples with what Flagstaff is going to do. So. Survey. This is the next. And this is JVA's most recent proposal where coordinate and execute subcontract for land surveyor, and with their this is Flatirons, their subconsultant. So this is JVA's original with Flatirons, who is 11,200. Ron and I reached out to Nathan and said, Nathan is an engineer from JVA who we've been working with. We said, what likelihood is it that you're going to need a geotech on this project? We know, barring we dig into a giant bank of clay. And he's like, yeah, you're right. We don't foresee the need of a geotech being needed. So we eliminated that. At least we have, unless we run into a giant bank of clay or some other expansive material in the bottom of the ditch, which we already probably know what that looks like. But their survey through Flatirons had been 11.2. So Drexel was 5.7, and I want to say Lee's was less than 4. So where we've got it to now, final, getting rid of all this alternate stuff, we've got a $17,800 JVA proposal and approximately $4,800 survey done by who happens to be local and more competitive than the others that were solicited.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. It does prompt one other question for me is, let's say you go with Flagstaff, with the cheapest option. We're proving a loan for over twice that. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. You don't know, as I said, I think I made the comment in mid-process, if they hit a survey stake or something happens where JVA says we need the pins replaced, we have a little extra cushion. If it isn't used, we put it right back in the TIF funds and return it. We don't really know. Suppose they run into that clay amount. I'm not sure, and that's why we added basically a contingency. And that's all I can say, Chris.
Okay. Other trustees have questions? Eric, did that answer your questions from Andrew?
It did answer my questions, and that follow-up from you, Mayor Larson, is very relevant, that it's not typical for any project to have a contingency fund that is more than double the cost of the project itself. And so that just seems like overkill to me, and that we don't need to approve such a high number.
I would agree with you. And also, as Ron said, if a geotech, for whatever reason, needs to get involved in the beginning, we'd like to be able to just go ahead and do that rather than have to, come back for more, as Ron said. So, and as far as, contingency being twice on this line item, certainly, when we're talking a huge project, the contingency would be, much less. maybe on the order of 5% or less. This is just so that we can try to button up any loose ends that may happen. JVA requires us, for whatever reason, to have a geotechnical engineer, and or as Ron said, if someone comes through and has a car, is drunk one night and runs over all the stakes and someone needs to go back out there, there's a lot of things that could happen. And if adjusting this number down slightly makes you feel better, we can do that. At the same token, we can just give it, the plan is to not need to spend it. It goes right back in to the TIF funds.
So this is Trustee Taylor. I'm curious along these same lines so hopefully I'm supporting the discussion so far. This is more a question perhaps to town staff. What is our process for tracking and auditing these funds so that we may have a presentation indicating what was spent and what was returned and the rationale behind all of that? Is there such a process?
That's a great question, Trustee Taylor. And we actually have a very complex method of collecting this information and tracking this information. And I didn't even understand how complicated it was until I started doing it after our previous treasurer left. But I can tell you that we have been able, Rita and I, as we've sort of deconstructed the process, been able to track back and see, the money that's been loaned out, how it's been spent. And so there is a process in place. We share invoices. We work very closely with the DDA. It's been a little tricky because their treasurer left, who was also their accountant. And so, we're playing catch up. We have a new treasurer. But yes, there is a process in place, and it is on the staff. We have to track all of this because you all, as the Board of Trustees, you're actually the governors for this money. That's what the statute says. So we do track it.
So at some future time, we would be able to ask for an accounting of what happened to this $10,000 along with justifications. And we would be able to verify that if $6,000 of this was not required, it was returned to the fund.
That is true.
Okay. Thank you very much, Karen.
Sure.
Thank you. That was a great question and clarification there. Other trustees, Lindsay, I don't think we've heard from you yet. Have any questions or comments?
Nope, not at this time.
Like to open, as everyone chews on this and thinks about it, it's an action item, so I'm going to open the floor up here to public comment. If anyone from the public would like to comment on this proposed loan to the DEA to do a survey of Big Springs Drive and Highway 119, now would be your time to speak up. Again, raise your hand or start speaking. Again, not hearing anyone. I'll bring it back to the board for any further discussion or motions or modifications to the proposal, anything like that from the board. Okay. As a reminder, what we're looking tonight to do is the DDA has asked for approval to spend up to $10,000 on this survey. To do so because of the financial way the DDA is put together and the town and works with the town, that requires a resolution before us, resolution 2020-34. During the discussion, it's written to be up to $10,000, but could be modified by any trustee if they had a proposal, if they wanted to instead and I'm just throwing numbers out here, lower that number to something or raise that number to something, that would also be an option.
Quick question.
Sorry, who's speaking?
Member of public?
Oh, okay.
Too late?
We haven't had any public comment tonight, and the board is still chewing on it sounds like on next steps. So I'm gonna reopen public comment. So yeah, Jesse, public comment.
Hi, yeah, Jessie Ansari. I'm a resident of In-Town, Nederland. Just a couple of questions, really. I was just listening and hearing that there's been the 2012 survey and the 2015 survey and the 2017 survey. So it would be really interesting to see the results of those, and just kind of interested in why you might need another historical survey, like what may have changed since the previous ones.
I can just jump in. I think the surveys that you might be referring to are traffic circulation surveys or studies.
Correct.
This is a
parking studies, I think.
yes. The survey that we are requesting.
I could answer her question specific to a parking study. What I recall is that there was an actual parking study done in 2008. Then there was an update done to it in 2010, which I did send to Miranda, and she shared it with Julian. I know that the DDA talked about doing an updated parking plan in 2017, but as far as I understand, they chose not to do it. So those are the only two parking plans or parking studies that I'm aware of that the DDA oversaw or sponsored.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty vital to this part of this packet to understanding the historical knowledge. And then my other question would be, how many spaces are being added to this area? How many new spaces does this create?
Grade 16.
16.
And in addition to creating 16 parking spots, it solves a big drainage problem and gets a multimodal pathway for pedestrians and or bikers.
Thank you, that helps.
Yep. Thank you guys for all that clarification. Any further public comment?
I'm not the public, but if you allow me to comment, I will. It's Ron Mitchell.
Go ahead, Ron.
I broke this down a little bit. The drainage portion of this would be about 38% of the total overall cost. The sidewalk would be about 34%, and the actual parking is 28%. So the parking is the smallest portion of the three things we're seeking to achieve.
All right, thank you. Any further public comment?
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to leave it real quick here for public comment. If anyone else. If not, we will bring it back to the board. Eric?
Yeah, I think just thinking this through, the drainage and the sidewalk is very interesting to me, and I think that's like kind of a fairly pressing issue that does need to be solved. That pathway will be useful, I think, to residents, and that drainage will be very important and to clean up that whole area. So it does seem to me that this is worthwhile to pursue, regardless of the parking, which I do think adds kind of like a pretty minimal number of spaces on the price to performance ratio. But I think we can do some good stuff with the drainage and the sidewalk and the multimodal path. I guess if this is the way the DDA thinks it needs to get done, I guess we can do the survey first. I would like to approve it, but with a reduction in the amount personally, and I would like the DDA to come back to us if they find issues like geotechnical or whatever. I would like to know about them, and I'd like them to come back personally.
Are you proposing an amendment to the resolution?
I guess I would be. Tanya came on though, so I imagine she has a comment.
So I just think it's weird that we're just like really busting these guys over. I mean, I've seen you guys just like approve huge amounts of money for smaller projects. It seems like we're getting parking, drainage, and a sidewalk, and these guys are doing due diligence to find the best price for us. Oh, I'm getting feedback. Are you?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's just my point. I really don't even know. I mean, it's great. I love when people want to give people a hard time, but I just don't understand it here. It's like, seems like a great project. We need parking. We need this drainage problem fixed. I'm not a huge fan of these sidewalks that really aren't, not too many people use them, like the ones we're going to be adding over to the RTD parking lot for $1.5 million or whatever. But hey, someone wants to do it. We got the money. Let's do it. It's going to make our town look better. I just don't understand this, but I also love, like I said, I like that you're giving them a hard time because I think we should be giving everybody a hard time. But that's just my comment.
So this is Trustee Taylor. May I comment?
Please.
So if the bid that we were seeing was $7,000, then $10,000, giving them a little leeway, that would be good. That'd be fine. The concern that comes up here is not that $10,000 is a lot of money. It's kind of the $10,000 is a round figure that's way, way above the bid. If I'm not mistaken, the bid is, if I'm understanding correctly, the bid is $4,800. Is that correct, Ron? $4,800?
I understood it was $3,000.
I heard $4,800.
Andrew has the exact figure there. He had it up.
Which is it, Andrew?
If you give me a second, I'm going to get back to that screen and pull it up. Karen, you may have it in your email because it came from JVA and directly went to you, and then Chris forwarded it to me. So I'm just having to search through some of Chris's old emails. Give me 1 second.
In response, Trustee
I
Taylor,
have the quotes.
You
I
have
have
it
the
now.
quote.
Chris, are you on?
Yes.
Chris Pelletier? Yeah, because Chris would have it.
I don't have Flagstaff's quote.
Well, Flagstaff was the lowest price you guys said, and if it's 4,000 or 4,800, are we saying that you guys would be happy with saying a loan amount of 6,000 to give them a contingency of 10 to or what 15 to 20%?
I suppose the question is it the $4,800 figure that we have chosen? Have we chosen the bid with which we are going, or are we being kind of loosey-goosey about this because we still haven't decided against Drexel Burrell?
That's a question for the DDA. Is the DDA representative, have you said that it's Flagstaff, or is there still some decision-making to decide?
We've decided on Flagstaff.
Then what is the final cost Flagstaff survey? And in the future, I mean, if really in the future, if you guys are, we're going to have these discussions. It'd be great to have this.
I had to dig for this a little bit, but so I apologize. Here is Lee's quote.
5,200.
No, this is the Flatirons Inc. quote from
I'm sorry.
It's a different one. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
But Trustee Corvalin, I think the reason why it might be perceived that we might be giving folks a hard time, I think is mostly because I don't think we're given the information we need to make the best possible decision here on this AIM, and I think that's really the source of the issue and why this discussion is continuing in the way that it's continuing. I don't think we can be presented with just a nice round number and then told that 3 quotes were considered and they went with one, but we don't know what it actually is, right? That's not sufficient to make a decision on. And it is a bit frustrating that, we are continually given incomplete information in these presentations, and it does not help us. And it's going to make these go longer and actually lend us more likely to not approve what's being asked for here.
to be honest, at this point, I'm feeling like we table this until next meeting and actually have an aim that says who the DDA is proposing we spend the money on and what that quote is, because this has been, I don't know, I'm just getting very frustrated by this whole process right now. And
this is
I'm very frustrated too, because the JVA contract, when you get to the 17,000, is very open-ended. If you think that
we've also been discussing this project since the springtime and not seen any progress made.
So I think it's not a matter of nitpicking this. It's really a matter of, to quote Sidney Greenstreet, business should be conducted in a business-like fashion. And I would propose a 50% pad for the loan over whatever the quote is. I think a 50% pad would be reasonable and reasonably generous, but double, that's an awful lot of pad for a loan of this sort. So I concur with Mayor Larson. I think we should table this, and in the next AIM, we should see the actual quote that we have chosen, and then I think I'd feel entirely comfortable with 50% above that for the loan to allow for contingencies, but not more than double.
Yeah, I'm not sure why in the most recent JVA contract, I don't see the Flagstaff number. It was in an email that went from JVA to town. And I know, Chris, you sent me the Flatirons and you've sent me the Drexel Burrell. And I'm looking through my email, and Lee of Flagstaff sent his price to JVA, and they included it in their proposal, which was sent to town staff.
Andrew, this is Karen. I'm wondering if I could make a recommendation.
Yes, Karen.
Just to move this forward. What I'm hearing is that it's not that it's the project sounds good, getting a survey not a problem. Really, if you guys could provide the document and be clear about who you're recommending. My question to the Board of Trustees is, would you feel comfortable if they did provide all of that and came back October 20th and we made it a consent agenda item?
That's exactly what I was going to propose.
Yeah, that would just save a lot of time and help this move forward.
That's exactly what I was going to propose, is that let's have a consent agenda item which lays out the actual details of this project. Who is going to be conducting the survey, what they are going to be charging, and then what the loan request from the BOT to the DDA is and we'll go with Trustee Taylor's recommendation of a 50% contingency, a reasonable amount. And so we can have that in a consent agenda at the next meeting and move forward.
I think that sounds great.
I believe we would need not a 4 to direct the town staff to work with the DDA to bring that forward on the consent agenda. Trustee Taylor?
I will concur.
Trustee Coombs Ismail?
No.
Trustee Baumhover?
Sure.
Trustee Corvallin?
You're saying, yeah, I mean, sure, I would approve it today, but we could do it then, yeah.
Okay. I think that's everyone. Myself, I also think put it on the consent agenda and direct town staff to have it ready for the consent agenda at our next meeting. We have a not a 4 to do so. All right. I believe that was our last action item for this evening. I think we can, I don't believe there was any discussion items. If we can steal back the screen. Miranda? Oh, there we go. So with that, I will open up. Board of Trustees have any other business that they would like to bring forward tonight?
Hi, this is Trustee Danforth. I would just like to bring up a topic. Over the years, the town has been plagued by frivolous and voluminous core requests from a type of person that, through my research, have come to be known as a vexatious requester, which is a fancy term that's become the go-to label for a citizen intent on causing annoyance through frequent and frivolous records requests. So basically, our town staff is being harassed and their time diverted from essential tasks to wade through an onslaught of vicious emails fraught with baseless accusations and abhorrent language, all under the guise of a core request. Many of these interactions, as I think we've all seen, around these requests devolve into a labyrinth of interrogatories born out of agitated conspiracy theory-like whims of a single non-resident person. I think the trustees have seen the level of abuse in our inboxes, and as representatives of our town, it is our job to make sure resources, like our town staff, are not abused and used to the benefit of a single person. Each core request is granted a free hour of time from staff to fulfill and then billed hourly for any additional time required to fill the request. This means that there's an avenue for abuse, as one person can inundate staff with incessant core requests. Some Colorado entities have included language in their core policies that act as a sort of code of conduct against excessive, burdensome, and harassing requests. In my research, I even saw that some small towns have fought back by suing the requester, and in other countries, the vexatious requester can be barred from submitting open records requests for a year. We are currently dealing with a person who has submitted over 21 requests in 2019 and has cost the town thousands of dollars for personal entertainment at the expense of town residents. So my goal is in the near future to add as a discussion item for us to talk about our core policy. I think that we can add language and structure to the Nederland Public Records policy that can protect town staff from harassment while not discouraging or creating barriers for citizens. There's certain towns, I sent a link to some of you about what other towns have included in their language, so I think we could adopt that. I also want to discuss the potential of using some of town budget to maybe hire somebody to assist town staff in either digitizing or organizing our records so we can offload some of this burden of searching back onto the requester. So staff time is not monopolized by individuals who have a separate agenda. That's basically all I wanted to say about that, and hopefully we can get that as an item to discuss, as I feel that this has become an issue, taking our precious resources and our tight budgets away from town staff being able to use those to the benefit of our citizens.
Trustee Danforth, this is Trustee Taylor. If no one else is pairing up with you on that, I'll be glad to. You're absolutely correct. This is turning into a burden, and we're seeing very little of actual constructive results from it. So I'm happy to work with you on the wording for such a policy and for bringing it forward, unless you already have someone else in mind.
Oh, I welcome your assistance.
All right, Lindsay, Julian, I would encourage you, let's have you guys work with town staff, and we'll determine, look at the upcoming meeting schedules and determine when a discussion item for this discussion item fits in, and when we have time for it and doesn't end up happening at 10:30 p.m. And yeah, thank you for bringing that forward.
Oh, I would like to have another discussion item that I will send an email out about our parking policy for the businesses, because even though you might find some of these core requests frivolous, it has opened my eyes to a lot of discrepancies and non-consistencies with our parking policies and our parking fund. So I will be looking to start a discussion item on that. And I understand that these things can be cumbersome for people, but just because somebody's active, it doesn't mean it's frivolous.
Active and abusive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're not discussing it now.
Right. Tanya, yeah, no, I was going to say, I just want to get back to your.
But I think our parking
First, Tanya.
situation needs to be discussed as well.
Right.
And I was going to send an email out regarding that.
Okay, great. Other trustees, anyone have any other business? All right. If not, then the only thing left on the agenda is someone to give us a motion to adjourn.
This is Trustee Taylor. I move to adjourn.
I second that.
And a second from Trustee Corvalin. Thank you, guys. Miranda, please call the motion to adjourn. Vote to adjourn.
Mayor Larkin,
Yes.
Trustee Taylor,
Yes.
Trustee Danforth,
Yes, and cheers to Jesse.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover,
Most definitely.
Trustee Corvalin, Trustee Corvalin.
She's already logged on.
Okay. Trustee Combs is now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Motion carries. Thank you guys all very much. Have a great evening and see you all soon.
Thank you, Mayor. Good luck on Zoom.
Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Hi, good night.
Good night.